Have you ever wondered how someone really feels about you? It's not always in what they say, it's in how they greet you. If their whole energy shifts the moment you show up, if their face lights up, their body leans in, and it feels like the world pauses for just a second, that's not just a hello, that's emotional truth in action. Because when someone's crazy about you, their greeting becomes the most honest part of their day, and it tells you everything you need to know. When someone greets you with real emotion, it becomes instantly noticeable. It's in the subtle shift of their expression, the softness in their eyes, the way their tone changes just slightly, but meaningfully, when they speak your name or say hello. There's an unspoken depth in that moment, like time briefly slows down. The greeting feels different from the ones you receive every day. It carries warmth, presence, and a kind of reverence. That's not something that can be faked or performed. It comes from a place of genuine feeling. You know it when you see it. The energy isn't neutral. It's electric, but not overwhelming. It has a sincerity to it that cuts through small talk or politeness. It's not just, "Hi, how are you?" It's more like, "Wow, you're here, and that matters to me." The words may be simple, but there's something behind them that feels loaded, meaningful, emotionally charged in a beautiful way. It's the kind of greeting that makes you feel like you were missed, like your presence shifts the energy in the room just by existing. There's something deeply human about this kind of connection. People spend so much time chasing grand romantic gestures, when in reality, it's often the small daily moments that show the greatest depth of feeling. A heartfelt greeting is one of those micro moments. It's easy to overlook because it happens so quickly, but it says so much. It reflects presence. It reflects emotional awareness. And most importantly, it reflects the emotional value you've come to hold in someone's life. Authenticity is at the core of this experience. There's no need for scripts, no need for the perfect words. It's not about being impressive, it's about being real. The eyes give it away. There's a spark of recognition, a trace of excitement, a gentle light that flickers when you walk into view. That emotional transparency is something people can't fake, at least not convincingly. When it's there, it feels safe, comforting, and just a little bit exhilarating. When someone's greeting carries emotion, it also brings with it a sense of intention. There's a deliberate moment of connection, even if it's just for a second. That person isn't just acknowledging your presence, they're celebrating it. You feel seen, you feel chosen in that moment, and not in a grand, dramatic way. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it's real. And if you're paying attention, you can feel that difference almost instantly. This kind of greeting doesn't need fanfare. It doesn't need big gestures or dramatic flair. The power lies in its simplicity. In a world where people often feel invisible or overlooked, being greeted with genuine warmth is like being emotionally embraced. It creates safety. It builds trust. It allows a deeper emotional connection to take root over time. And all of that starts in something as simple as hello. There's something sacred about someone showing you emotional openness without needing a reason. They don't need to be having a particularly good day. They don't need anything from you in that moment. They're simply happy you're there. The greeting itself becomes a gift, a quiet reminder that you matter and that your presence is felt. You can feel it in your chest, a tiny bloom of joy, of being welcomed not just physically but emotionally. A lot of people estimate the power of nonverbal cues in these greetings, but so much is communicated without words. A smile that reaches the eyes, a momentary pause to take you in, the way someone's voice softens or lifts when they speak to you, the way they angle their body toward you, instinctively closing off the world just a little bit to create a private space for the two of you. These are all signals of emotional investment, subtle yet undeniable indicators that you're more than just a passing thought. One of the most beautiful parts of this kind of greeting is that it doesn't depend on perfection. The person offering it doesn't need to be polished or put together. They could be tired, rushed, even stressed. But their tone changes when you appear. Their body language becomes more open, their energy more receptive. That contrast is what tells you everything. It's not about what they're doing, it's about what they feel when they see you. That feeling becomes a form of consistency. You start to notice that no matter what the situation is, whether it's a quick hello or a longer interaction, the emotional tone of the greeting stays the same. Warm, real, invested. It doesn't waver with mood swings or circumstances. And that kind of consistency builds emotional security. You start to feel safe with someone like that because you know the connection isn't circumstantial, it's rooted in genuine feeling. This kind of emotional greeting also reflects emotional courage. vulnerability. It takes a certain kind of openness to greet someone not with armor or performance, but with truth. With your heart just slightly exposed, there's a kind of strength in showing that someone matters, even in the smallest of interactions. And when you receive a greeting like that, it gives you permission to soften too, to show up honestly, to meet that warmth with your own. Ultimately, these emotionally charged greetings act as emotional bookmarks. They're the small but powerful moments that punctuate a connection. You may forget the words that were said, but you won't forge to how it made you feel. There's an imprint that stays with you. You carry that feeling throughout the day, the feeling of being welcomed, of being cared for, of being remembered. It's the emotional residue of love in its most accessible form, not the sweeping romance of novels or films, but the kind of love that shows up in real life, quietly, steadily, sincerely. A love that reveals itself not through grand declarations, but in the moments that most people aren't even looking for. That is where the real magic lies. The first few seconds of any interaction carry incredible weight. They set the tone. They speak volumes, often louder than entire conversations. In those fleeting moments, people show what truly matters to them. When someone prioritizes you in the way they greet you, it's a reflection of emotional value. It's the instant shift in focus, the full body presence, the subtle but unmistakable shift in energy that says this moment with you is important. The world moves fast. People are often caught up in endless distractions, messages buzzing, responsibilities looming, thoughts racing. But there's something unmistakable about a person who, even in the middle of all that, makes space to be fully present the moment you walk in. The difference is clear. Their attention doesn't drift. Their eyes aren't scanning the room. Their energy doesn't feel split between you and everything else. For that moment, you're the priority. And that speaks louder than any compliment or verbal reassurance. Presence is one of the rarest forms of affection. In a society that glorifies multitasking, real attention is sacred. It's a sign that you're not just a background character in someone's day, you're central. You hold emotional weight in their world. They're not rushing through the hello to get to something else. They're not distractedly offering a half smile. They're group ended, engaged, and attuned. That level of focus is a form of emotional intimacy. It makes you feel chosen, not out of obligation, but from genuine desire. This kind of priority shows itself in small but meaningful ways. Maybe it's the way a person puts their phone away the second you arrive. Maybe it's how they stop mid-task, mid-thought, mid-conversation just to acknowledge your presence. Not because you demanded it, but because they want to. That instinctive shift in their focus isn't planned, it's natural, authentic, unfiltered. The world fades a little, and for that one moment, you're all that exists. That's not just politeness, that's emotional investment. One of the clearest signs of emotional depth is the ability to be interruptible. When someone can pause whatever they're doing and choose to be with you, even for a brief moment, it shows that they aren't governed by routine or performance. They're led by feeling. It means your arrival changes something for them. It triggers a reaction, an emotional shift, a spike in joy or comfort or excitement. That's not something people can fake over time. It comes from a place of real care. People reveal their emotional priorities in the way they handle interruptions. When someone sees your arrival not as a break in their flow, but as an upgrade to it, that's telling. That's where the truth lies. Not in what they say about you, but how they act when you enter their space. They don't treat you like an obligation to manage or a box to check. They treat you like a highlight, a presence that enhances the moment. Even in the busiest environments, this kind of attention cuts through noise. It's not about the setting, it's about the emotional quality of the greeting. You could walk into a crowded room, a hectic office, or a rushed conversation. But the moment your presence is acknowledged with real attention, everything shifts. The energy changes. You feel seen. There's a certain gravity in that moment, a quiet kind of emotional pull that centers on connection. What makes this kind of prioritization powerful is that it's not necessarily loud or dramatic. It's often quiet. It's in the subtle changes, the stillness that suddenly appears, the smile that wasn't there before, the way the room seems to pause even just slightly. It's felt more than it's observed, but you know it. You feel it in your gut. That tiny recognition tells you that your presence is not neutral. It matters. Consistency is a key part of this kind of emotional prioritization. Anyone can be warm once. Anyone can greet with enthusiasm occasionally. But when someone always make space for you in those first few seconds, no matter how tired they are, no matter how much is on their plate. That's when you know it's real. When presence becomes a pattern, not an exception, that's when it transforms from a moment into a message that says, you are important to me no matter what else is happening. This isn't about needing constant attention or being the center of someone's world. It's about emotional reliability. It's about knowing that in the moments that matter most, when you arrive, when you show up, you'll be received with intention. That predictability creates safety. It's not about being worshipped. It's about being valued consistently in the quiet rhythm of everyday life. There's also something powerful about being the person who changes someone's energy just by entering their space. That doesn't come from status, looks, or performance. It comes from emotional resonance. When you have that kind of impact on someone, it's because there's a deeper emotional connection. They've attached meaning to you. Your presence brings up feelings, joy, comfort, affection that they can't help but express even in a simple hello. People often chase clarity in relationships through big conversations, trying to define everything with words. But sometimes the truth is found in the first 5 seconds of interaction. That's where the real story is told. You don't need to ask how someone feels when their actions already answer the question. Their focus, their energy, their responsiveness, it all communicates loud and clear. There's a certain peace in knowing that your presence doesn't just fit into someone's day, it elevates it. That their first instinct is to connect, not out of duty, but out of joy. That greeting becomes more than a social habit. It becomes a ritual, an emotional checkpoint that reaffirms your place in their life. It says in the simplest of ways, you're here, and that means something to me. At its core, this level of presence and prioritization reveals emotional maturity. It takes a grounded, self-aware person to stop the world for a moment and fully engage with someone else. It's a conscious decision to be present, not scattered, to give quality over quantity. And when you're on the receiving end of that, you feel it. You feel held, respected, emotionally met in a world that often rushes past real connection. So much of modern interaction is transactional, driven by habit or obligation. But when someone greets you like you're a gift, like your arrival has added something meaningful to their moment, that's not just about the now. That's about what you've come to represent to them emotionally. It's not about needing you. It's about wanting you in their space over and over without needing to be asked. Before words are ever exchanged, the body has already spoken. Communication begins the moment someone sees you, and often the body reveals more truth than any sentence ever could. When a greeting is infused with emotional meaning, it radiates from physical presence through posture, movement, expression, and tone. It's the physical language that delivers a message far deeper than hello. It's a message of comfort, of connection, of feeling safe enough to express what words sometimes can't. One of the first cues lies in proximity. There's a natural instinct to draw near when something or someone feels emotionally significant. Physical closeness is often a silent invitation. It says, I want to be near you. It's not forced. It's not overly intense. It's simply the body gravitating toward what it finds emotionally valuable. That kind of leaning in during a greeting, even if it's subtle, is a sign of lowered guard and heightened presence. Then there's eye contact. It doesn't just linger, it softens. It's not the gaze of curiosity or politeness. It's the kind of look that says, I feel something in this moment. The eyes light up, they stay, and they tell a story of familiarity, joy, or even admiration. There's no rush to look away. Time doesn't exist for a few seconds. In that silence, there's emotional communication, undeniable, unspoken, and sincere. The face itself becomes a mirror of emotional connection. Micro-expressions, a quick smile, a raised brow, a slight widening of the eyes. These involuntary reactions emerge before anyone can consciously filter them. A genuine smile can't be faked. It doesn't just show on the lips. It shows in the eyes, in the way the cheeks rise, in the way the whole face seems to light up. That physical expression is a giveaway. It's the body's way of saying, I'm happy to see you, without needing to form the words. There's also openness in posture. Arms aren't crossed, the body isn't turned away, shoulders relax. The stance becomes open and inviting, signaling emotional receptivity. When someone feels safe and emotionally connected, the body naturally lowers its defenses. That physical openness is the body's silent declaration of trust and emotional readiness. It tells you that you're welcome, not just in the room, but in their space, their presence, and possibly their heart. Touch, when appropriate, also speaks volumes. A hug, a light touch on the arm, a hand briefly placed on your back, these gestures are deeply human. They're not just physical, they're emotional signatures. They say, I feel close to you, I care, or this moment matters. Even a momentary touch during a greeting carries emotional weight. It's a form of affection that words could never fully capture. Tone of voice is another powerful layer of the physical greeting. The voice isn't flat, it's not transactional, there's a shift. Sometimes a softness, other times a playful lift. The way your name is said, the warmth behind even a simple hey can carry more meaning than an entire conversation. When emotion colors the voice, it becomes personal. It creates connection instantly. It makes the greeting feel tailored, unique, and heartfelt. Movement can also be a subtle but telling indicator. There's often a quickness, not out of impatience, but eagerness. Steps get lighter. There might be a small bounce, a sudden energy shift. That enthusiasm is unconscious. It's not a performance, it's the body responding emotionally before the mind catches up. It's the excitement of presence showing itself in physical rhythm and energy. Even breathing patterns can reflect emotional connection. There's often a visible sigh, not of stress, but of relief. A deep inhale when someone arrives or a relaxed exhale can signal a release of tension. It's as if their arrival brought comfort, grounding, or a feeling of finally. The breath becomes a bridge between what is felt and what is seen. Listening to the body in these moments gives insight into emotional depth. You can feel it in the atmosphere. The space between two people fills with a kind of quiet electricity. The moment slows down. Time stretches just enough to hold something tender, intimate, and emotionally significant. The air feels different, not in a dramatic, overwhelming way, but in a grounded, reassuring one. This kind of physical greeting is never manipulative. There's no agenda behind it. It doesn't aim to impress or to gain something. That's what makes it so powerful. It's authentic. The body doesn't lie. When the heart feels something, it will show up some way. In the body's language. And in the realm of connection, physical expression is often the first and most honest truth teller. What makes these gestures so meaningful is their consistency. They don't only appear in good moods or perfect situations. Even on difficult days, even through stress or exhaustion, the physical greeting remains warm, genuine, and emotionally alive. That consistency isn't just habit, it's a reflection of how deeply someone's presence has rooted itself in your emotional world. This kind of communication also shows emotional safety. When someone greets you without reservation, when their body expresses joy or peace in your presence, it's because they feel safe. Safe to be real, safe to be seen. And that safety is what builds deeper emotional bonds. Emotional safety is not always something you talk about, but it is always something you feel. And it's often most clearly expressed in those first physical cues. It's easy to overlook these gestures, especially if one's only looking for big, sweeping signs of affection. But the truth is, real connection often lives in these tiny, quiet details. The tilt of a head, the softness in a glance, the hand that lingers for a second longer than usual. These are the building blocks of emotional intimacy, the foundation upon which trust, care, and love are built. When a greeting holds this kind of emotional weight in physical form, it changes the dynamic entirely. It turns a simple interaction into an experience. It makes an ordinary moment feel special. And more importantly, it makes you feel special, not for anything you've done, but simply for who you are and how your presence affects someone else. These gestures, while small, are accumulative. Over time, they create a language of their own, a physical love language that's spoken effortlessly. It becomes a rhythm, a pattern of connection that's reliable, grounding, and deeply personal. And in a world that often encourages emotional detachment and guardedness, this kind of physical vulnerability is quietly revolutionary. Consistency reveals truth over time. While intensity may spark interest, it's reliability that fosters trust. A greeting that feels warm and emotionally engaged once might be sweet or flattering, but when that same warmth is expressed every time through all moods, moments, and environments, it becomes more than just charm. It becomes a language of emotional stability. And that's what truly speaks to the depth of someone's feeling, not how they greet you when it's easy, but how they greet you when life isn't. Emotional consistency in a greeting is a quiet but powerful demonstration of care. It doesn't shout, it doesn't make a big display, but it offers something better: security. Knowing that every time you show up, you'll be met with the same emotional energy creates an anchor in the relationship. It tells you, without words, that the connection doesn't rely on circumstances or convenience. It's there, it's steady, it's present. This kind of consistency builds emotional safety, something people often crave but struggle to articulate. When a person's emotional response doesn't fluctuate wildly based on their mood or external pressures, it gives you permission to relax. You stop second-guessing. You stop wondering if you're welcome today or if something changed without warning. That predictability creates a kind of peace that no grand gesture ever could. The truth is, anyone can be affectionate or attentive once. Anyone can greet with enthusiasm in the right moment when things are light and easy. But how someone shows up again and again, even when they're tired, distracted, or facing challenges, is what reveals the emotional foundation underneath. Consistent greetings are not about performance. They're about presence. They're about choosing to show up emotionally, not just physically. That emotional choice becomes clearer over time. One warm greeting might lift you our day, but a string of them builds something deeper. It builds a rhythm, a relational heartbeat. It says, this isn't a phase, this is how I value you. And that kind of constancy can't be forced, it can't be faked. It's either there or it isn't. And when it is, you feel it in your core. You feel secure, appreciated, and emotionally seen. Consistency also reveals authenticity. Real connection isn't seasonal. It doesn't wax and wane based on convenience. When someone's emotional warmth is consistent, it shows that they're not putting on a mask or following a script. They're not trying to impress you. They're simply being real. And in a world that often trades realness for relevance, this kind of emotional reliability is incredibly rare. One of the most telling signs of emotional consistency is the ability to greet with warmth even in difficult moments. Maybe they're busy, stressed, or emotionally drained, but that greeting still carries presence. It may not be as bubbly or energetic as usual, but it still feels grounded, it still feels intentional. That's when you know the warmth isn't performative, it's part of their emotional DNA. Emotional maturity plays a key role here. Not everyone can be consistent, especially when they haven't developed the emotional tools to do so. It requires self-awareness, empathy, and a level of roundedness that allows a person to remain emotionally engaged even when life gets chaotic. It's not about perfection, it's about the decision to keep showing up with heart. Patterns tell a story, and consistent greetings form one of the most reliable patterns in human interaction. Think about it. Every interaction starts somewhere. The greeting sets the tone. When that tone is warm, welcoming, and emotionally steady over and over again, it conditions your nervous system to feel safe in that space. It tells your subconscious, I know what to expect here, and it's good. This pattern becomes especially meaningful when contrasted against inconsistency. Many people know what it's like to receive mixed signals, where one day the energy is high and affectionate, and the next day it's distant or cold without explanation. That roller coaster breeds confusion and anxiety. It creates emotional whiplash. But a consistent greeting cuts through all of that. It says, there's nothing to decode, you're welcome here every time. Over time, this reliability becomes part of the emotional fabric of the relationship. It's not just about how you're greeted anymore. It's about what that greeting comes to represent. It represents care. It represents effort. It represents the choice to prioritize emotional connection no matter what else is happening. And that choice builds emotional capital. It strengthens trust. It deepens attachment in the healthiest of ways. Small moments often carry the greatest weight. A consistent greeting may seem minor on the surface, but emotionally it speaks volumes. It's a micro-expression of love, respect, and presence. It's a way of saying, you matter to me, not just on special occasions, not just when it's convenient, but always. That's not just affection. That's commitment in its purest form. When someone's presence becomes a safe place through repeated emotional consistency, it shifts how you relate to them. You open up more, you trust more, you begin to rely not on what they say they feel, but on what they show you consistently. And that's the kind of connection that lasts. It's not built on highs, it's built on steadiness, on knowing that even when things are quiet, the care is still there. There's also an ease that grows out of consistent emotional presence. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth, to overextend, or to read between the lines. You stop wondering, will I be met with warmth today or distance? That question disappears, and in its place comes emotional freedom, the ability to just be, knowing that the other person will meet you with the same energy they always do. This kind of reliability is deeply nurturing. It creates a relational environment where growth can happen, both individually and together. Because when you feel emotionally safe, you're more willing to show vulnerability, to take risks, to speak openly. Consistent greetings, while simple, can become the foundation for a deeper emotional ecosystem, one built on trust, mutual respect, and quiet, steady love. At the core of it all is emotional dependability, not excitement, not perfection, just the steady, reassuring presence of someone who chooses, again and again, to show up with warmth, someone who doesn't wait for the right conditions to be kind or present, they just are. That kind of emotional rhythm is rare, but when you find it, it changes how you experience connection altogether. You stop chasing moments and instead begin to trust patterns. You stop needing reassurance through words alone because the actions have already spoken. You begin to feel safe, not because someone told you you're valued, but because they've shown you every time they greet you. And there's nothing louder, more powerful, or more meaningful than that quiet, consistent act of choosing someone emotionally again and again,